Hey there, difference maker. I want to talk to you a little bit about following your path to live your purpose. We all want to be able to discover and embrace our purpose in this life, right? And often I've worked with and spoken with leaders who feel they need to be motivated. They need to find the motivation that will move them toward their purpose and either keep or get them on their path. And I think the first part of this conversation needs to be that it's not about motivation, it is about inspiration. And although those words sometimes are used interchangeably, they're very different in meaning. When you're motivated, the push is from the outside, it's an external force making you feel like you have to, need to, or should do something. So it's an external influence that is encouraging us in some way, shape, or form to take an action, to take a next step. And motivations can be good. It can be the motivation from someone rooting us on, but motivation can also come from a place of fear. So it can be good, it can be bad. Motivation in life is not a bad thing, it's a great thing. As leaders, what we hope to do as external influences for those in our community that we want to serve, we want to be a positive motivation for them. Um, but ideally, we can be someone who helps them find inspiration for their journey. And I want to encourage you to find inspiration for your journey, because how inspiration is different from motivation is that although motivation is an external influence, inspiration is an internal drive. Inspiration, inspire, to breathe life into. This is all about you coming from the inside out, breathing life into whatever it is that you're interested in, passionate about, enthusiastic about. So when you're motivated to do something, one of the other kind of cornerstones of motivation is that it's typically, although it can be very powerful, it's typically short term, because once the external influence goes away, the motivation, the momentum starts to fizzle. But with inspiration, because it is internally, and some would even say divinely inspired, it comes from within you. It is long term, which is why it can continue to fuel you every time you consciously reconnect with it. So with that in mind, I want you to think about your path and your purpose from the perspective of what inspires you. Because whether you realize it or not, you came here to live an inspired life. And I always think of the book. It was originally a blog that was written by Bronnie Ware, a palliative care nurse, called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, which later became a book after it was republished in the Huffington Post. It's an amazing read, highly recommend it. But as a palliative care nurse, she spends time with patients who are in their final days of life, often, anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks. My father had a palliative care nurse in his final days, so I'm familiar with what they do, and they're in a very unique position to be able to ask questions to people who are staring down their final days. And that's exactly what Bronnie Ware did. She started asking the question, do you have any regrets? And what's fascinating is that the regrets were repeated so often that she was able to create a top 5 list, which is why she wrote the blog, which has now become a book. And a couple of the regrets are what you might think: I wish I hadn't spent so much time working. I wish I had stayed in touch with people I cared about, friends and family. But the number one regret, the regret that surfaced so many times that it became number one on a top 5 list, was I wish I had had the courage to live a life true to myself instead of the life others expected of me. I'll let that sink in and even repeat it. I wish I had had the courage to live a life true to myself instead of the life others expected of me. See, the life others expect of you, and all of those external influences telling you should do this, you should go to this school, you should study this, you should become a fill in the blank. That's all external influence. So that's motivation. And it actually pushes a lot of people to make life altering decisions that don't ultimately fulfill them. But when you are in tuned with what sparks joy within you, when you are aligned with the idea of living a life that is true to you, then you start thinking the thoughts and making the decisions that will be most fulfilling for you. So, what I want to do is offer up for you a few why questions. Now, the first couple are pretty straightforward, and hopefully, you ask yourself this on a regular basis, being in this space of health, wellness, leadership, fitness, this whole world that we get to live in. Why did you get into this industry? I'd love for you to take some time, think about that, maybe grab a notebook, piece of paper, and jot down whatever comes to mind. Like what is it that brought you into this space? Why did you decide to step into a leadership role like the one that you're in to begin with? And whether that was a year ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, then ask yourself, why am I still here? Why am I still doing this? I think those can be some good foundational why questions to ask yourself. But then I really want you to think about two additional why questions. I think these whys are so powerful. One is going to be externally focused, the other is going to be internally focused, and they will create the foundation of the inspiration that you need to be able to ensure you're on your path and living your purpose. So, your external why. Who do you feel called to help and how? Who do you feel called to help and how? And in that, so if you can imagine, who you feel called to help and how you could see yourself helping them. Another way to address that would be, what could you see yourself doing that would spark joy within you? Is it teaching? Is it training? Is it facilitating workshops? Is it leading challenges or courses, or leading a retreat, coaching, advising, being a mentor? How could you see yourself interacting with others? So this is your external why. Why would you want to move into this space? Like, what is it that you could see yourself doing that would bring joy? So the hint is that everything leads to joy. So what could see yourself doing that would lead to that joy? So that's that kind of why do I want to give to the world? Okay, in what way and why do I want to give to the world? And then there's a very personal why that, and there can be multiple, by the way, both external and internal, but the personal why. So to give you an example, my external why, I love to teach, I love to coach, I love to collaborate, I love to support other leaders, because my why is that I want to be able to uplift other leaders so that they can make a bigger positive impact on those that they serve. I want them to feel so empowered that their light shines so bright that their impact on the world is greater. That sparks joy in me. So that is a huge why for me that is externally focused. My internal why has a couple of layers to it. One is simply that doing this work, supporting other leaders, creating courses, workshops, coaching, it absolutely sparks joy within me to do the work. But in addition to that, I seek freedom. I want to be able to work when I'm able to work, from where I'm able to work, or anywhere I have a laptop and internet access. I want to be able to work from there and choose where that is. I want to have the freedom to choose. I want to have the freedom to choose when I work, where I work, and I want to be able to have that financial freedom to live the life that's calling my name, to live in a way that I'm not coming from a place of worry or anxiety. And then my other big personal why is that I want to be a role model for my son. If he grows up and finds himself struggling with what to do with his life, I want to be able to encourage him to follow his heart, to look for the inspiration and follow that, because I'll know that that's the right path that will be most fulfilling for him, that will be his purpose. And I'll be able to show him the example of me doing that in my life. Being able to be that kind of role model is incredibly important to me. And so that's another huge personal why. So think externally. Who do you feel called to help, and how can you help them? And what would you see yourself doing that would spark joy? Okay, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? Then internally, on a very personal level, what's your why for doing what you want to do? What's your why for putting your good work out into the world? If you start thinking in this way, and then write it all down. It doesn't have to make a ton of sense. It can be in bullet points, but start to write down these thoughts, because I promise you, these thoughts are inspired. When you ask these questions, the thoughts that bubble up are inspired thoughts, and they will guide you in the right direction. And here's what I can tell you that I know for sure. If in fact you go through these questions, these exercises, jot some things down, and ultimately you realize that you feel called to be of service in some way that would both benefit others and benefit you, that would spark joy within your heart and soul, that would allow you to leave your unique soul signature on this earth in the time that you are here, I believe it is your moral obligation to move in that direction. I believe that you owe it to yourself, and I believe you owe it to those whose lives you'll be positively impacting when you do move in that direction. So ask the why questions, tap into the inspired thoughts. And that, my friend, is how you will find yourself on your path, living your purpose. Until our paths cross again, please know that I'm sending you much love. Take care.